Welcome to Empowered. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the past, present and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation and the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We further acknowledge the land on which we work here at RED, and that is the land of the Turrbal and Yugara peoples. Thank you for being here today. Episode, I can't remember what number, but I appreciate you being here, for your eyes and your ears. The struggle that you have overcome might be the struggle a queen is currently sinking in. We all have a story, and I believe we all need to share that story. So welcome to Empowered. Here you will be surrounded by a community of queens who have conquered their own. I'm very blessed to have a village of people in my corner who lead with love, share their success tips, and this is a platform for just those stories. If you had the cure to cancer, you'd share it. And I believe that your story is someone else's cure. Your story will help save a soul, and this world needs way more of that. The intention for these potties is to host guests with topics and tricks shared with the listener or the viewer to help them live a life full of love, happiness and success. Be surrounded by queens who have walked your path and resonate with their stories. What do you know now that has helped with your journey that your younger self would love to have in your toolbox? Welcome to Empowered. And today's queen is the one and only Sara Harrup, and I really appreciate you being here. I'd like to recap what I sort of mentioned to you is very grateful for Sara. In a previous life, was the CEO of Food Bank, of which we were very grateful to be blessed as an opportunity as a client of ours here at RED. And albeit I didn't actually do any of the technical work, because I'm the least technical person here at RED, being the Chief of Happiness, I just automatically was passionate about and connected with your energy. I just felt really driven towards connecting with you. So I don't know if you thought when I messaged you first up, what on earth does Emma Herbert, the Chief of Happiness at RED, want to have me in for a podcast? But I hope that introduction sort of unpacks why I am so grateful for you being here, because I just think you're amazing. From what I know of your story I think you're incredible, and I'd really love to hear more about that today. I believe we also have a superpower in common, which is our ADHD. So that's really cool. Love to hear more about that and how that's helped and or hindered you, and when you got diagnosed and all that kind of juicy stuff. So there's so much that we could unpack today, to the point that we probably will maybe do 2 or 3 more sessions in the series.
We're going to pack it in.
Yeah, good. I'm always known, which is one of my blessings from my ADHD, I have one speed, which is turbo. So I don't know if you're the same, but from what I know of you, I believe you are.
I sleep occasionally. But I always say don't rest the way normal people rest.
No. What's normal?
Yeah.
No, I agree. I even apparently talk in my sleep as well, so that's awesome. You never get silence from me. But thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
That's such a great introduction.
Thank you.
So kind.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's genuine. If it's not genuine, it doesn't come out of my mouth, so why waste that space? So I truly mean what I said. I sort of explained before as well, Sara's been on our brother podcast, which is our RED Technology and Business podcast, where you shared, what was your topic actually? It was so long ago.
Oh gosh, it was really all
Should
about...
have researched that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It was really about technology in the not-for-profit space, and we touched a fair bit on cyber and I guess some of the barriers to implementing good cyber governance when you're in a charity.
Yeah. And how long were you with Food Bank for?
Nearly 3.5 years.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Not easy, but it would have been fun and highlighted a lot of awesome moments in your career, I dare say.
Look, not easy from the perspective that, hundreds and, well, not even hundreds, I'm going to say thousands of moving parts. Which is not uncommon for organisations that are charities that are also kind of, providing products and services. So complex from that perspective, fun from a transformation perspective, and fun from an impact perspective. And I think one of the best parts about it was the team. Like they were just
the people.
So great. But that's, what I'm drawn to wherever I am. It's usually about the people for me.
I've made a career out of people, thank goodness. Yeah, no, I absolutely. And that transformation piece you mentioned is so evident. That 3.5 years you were there, you've done so well and
bit
so
of a
much.
hurricane.
Yeah. Again, turbo. It's our superpower. Don't shy away from it. But yes, thank you for what you did share on the Brother podcast. The boys, I've got to stop saying that, but they are Jackson and Nigel, co-hosts together, or they're a laugh a minute. But yes, my podcast is ever so slightly different, and it's absolutely not about the tech. It's more about, as I said, those queens in our community and the short stories that we need to share, because I believe that we've all got them. And we were speaking before off camera around, it's we're removing that lens of it being. It used to not be okay to share your deep, raw emotions and who we truly are and all those stories. But now,
people want it.
They do. They
really
thrive
want
on
it. Every time I look at, I was going to say I don't put a huge amount of thought into my LinkedIn posts. That's not entirely true. I'm not scientific about it, is what I would say.
Yep.
But I do have a look at what resonates, and it's honestly, it's the stories. It's when you actually reveal something about yourself. That's what resonates.
Absolutely.
And when I think I've done a great post that's got some sort of really amazing, technical
content.
Takeaways, it's like, nobody really cared about that.
Crickets.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I think also too, my motto has always been stand out from the sea of same, whether it's aesthetics or, everything. Again, maybe a superpower of ADHD, or maybe it's just Emma, I don't know, but you've got to stand out because, I don't know.
There's a lot of beige in the world.
So much beige. But, like LinkedIn, for example, is such a terrific platform, but it can be the sea of same unless you're standing out. So I'm always drawn to your posts and I love them. And you use human elements like video. It's just so simple to pick up the phone. You're going to take a photo or something, just record you, because it captures you, it shares you on a platform that we don't get to see much whoever you are.
Yep.
It's more, here's some data or here's some statistics from recent sales.
Here's how smart I am.
Yes, exactly. Something that I really resonated with, and I mentioned our mutual superpower is our ADHD. And I loved seeing all your posts come out about, being proud enough to speak about that, because, again, it's something that used to be a naughty...
I've come out of the closet and I'm almost 100% comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I'll have to be now. I'm just saying on a podcast.
Out and out.
And it's really the last year where I've actually I was worried at first that, people would, I don't know, think, particularly as a non-executive director on boards, I thought it would impact my chances of getting board roles. Right. That people are going to think that I can't hold it together or I can't concentrate or I'm flaky or...
medicated?
Yes, but atypically medicated.
Yep.
So Ritalin doesn't agree with me very much.
Fair.
But so I think now I take the view that I'm just unapologetically me. Yes. And if me declaring that I have ADHD prevents me from getting a role or an engagement or a piece of advisory work somewhere, good, because I don't want that work.
Yep. And, you've got to be, and I appreciate and respect you saying you're not 100% there, because it's so strange. You've got to repack your toolbox because how long ago were you diagnosed, by the way?
2 years.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a relearning of yourself and the stories that you had told yourself over the years. They're all BS. Yeah.
Snap. I was about to say that the beautiful part about it was I got to go back and retell a set of old stories that I had told myself my entire life and retell them in a different way, and it was so liberating.
It's like a rebirth in a way.
Fantastic. Yeah.
What drove you to the diagnosis? Okay, have I touched us?
No. Well, so my son was diagnosed.
That's right. You mentioned that.
And then one of my daughters was diagnosed,
because it comes from one of the mother or the father.
Yeah, and their psychiatrist looked at me and said, "So, Sara, you understand it's as heritable as height?" And I went, Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I just
Why are you looking at me?
that. And then, and I often had wondered why I seem to have an innate understanding of the issues that my son and daughter were having. Why do I get that so much, but no one else seems to get it?
Right.
And how can I explain that to other people in a way that makes sense? And then I went,
penny drops, lights switch on. So how old are your children, or were they when you went through the process?
So my son was nearly 9.
Mm-hmm.
No, eight. And my daughter was diagnosed late, so she was 15, nearly 16, I think. Yeah. So, and it's interesting, when she was 4, I took her to the paediatrician and went, there's something a bit different about her.
So you paused there. We always go to say there's something wrong. There's not something wrong.
Yeah, something different in the way that she thinks and does things. And they said, oh, no, she's fine. But when I look back, had I known then what I know now, I would have gone, oh, my gosh, she's got ADHD. I remember a grade 6 teacher saying that, like, she didn't do any work, but she kept novels hidden underneath her desk, and she would, like, be reading, like, novel after novel.
Oh, my goodness.
Which was really interesting because when she was prep in grade 1, she had a severe learning disability and she couldn't learn how to read.
Any dyslexia showing up?
Not dyslexia,
our brain works faster than
dyscalculia.
Yes, sure.
So real issues for her with numbers.
Yep.
And
same. That's why I made a career out of people.
Auditory processing.
Right.
And it's amazing because her difficulty reading is now, like, she's a huge reader.
It's a gift.
Now. Yeah,
absolutely.
Huge reader.
That's amazing.
Whereas my son, not a fan of reading.
Yep.
He's numbers kid.
Yep.
And he's like high school algebra. Like, he was doing high school algebra like 2 years ago when he was 8, and they kept saying to me, oh, look, he's just gifted and he's anxious because he's a gifted child. And I go, yeah, but he's not universally gifted. It's just maths. Like,
just
what's going on? And then it was just the ADHD masked his school performance in other areas. So we're all great.
Of
like,
course
now
are.
that we're now that we all understand who we are and how our brains work.
What looking from a mother's perspective would you have appreciated when you were younger? Because I can tell you my list. It's listening to you now, speaking of your daughter, borderline feeling guilty that you're just unsure, right? I was diagnosed obviously late in life, and my mum almost went through this horrific guilt phase where I'm so sorry, I'm 41 and a bit now. They didn't know what that was back then. No. I was just the perpetual naughty child. I was always in trouble, always too loud, always disrupting, insert symptoms here. Not symptoms, you know what I mean? And she feels so guilty that she didn't pick it up. And then one of the uncoverings, did you have to go through the current symptoms and childhood symptoms for yourself?
Yes,
yep. So Mum went through that process with me and spoke with my psychiatrist in part of the diagnosis, and Mum actually broke down. She said, I'm so sorry, I now realise you had a piano teacher when you were 6 or 7 and this is funny now, but not back in the time, I'm sure. The piano teacher called Mum and said there's no point wasting your money because she's not doing her homework, she's not paying attention in her class, so you're ripping up money every week. And she at the time was like, oh, that's a bit hard. Mum's the most introverted Catholic little lady you've ever met, so she would have just gone, okay, thanks. And she'd never told me that story. I just assumed something else happened with my piano lessons, I don't know. But as a parent, and I'm certainly seeing signs in 1, maybe 2 of my children, but am I focused too much on it because of what I've gone through myself? That I don't know. But that's a whole other thing.
I think the answer to that's no.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
There are still people out there who say that ADHD doesn't exist. It's so...
Try living with it, mate.
Would you go up to a person in a wheelchair and tell them that paraplegia doesn't exist? I mean, it's absolutely... And look, I don't have a problem calling it a disability because I look at my life and my kids' lives and it's true that we have huge amounts of adaptive traits to help us to do all of the things that we do. But without the diagnosis and without being able to develop adaptive traits, it really is a disability.
Living our life without that would have been, crippling.
It's just from an Australian government perspective, although there is some inquiry work happening now, but not there yet.
No.
Yeah.
So being a mother, supporting your 2 children, it's major. They'll know no other way, right? Whereas you've come from a different learning where you've had to relearn. Tell me some of your relearnings or your aha light bulb moments once you were out on the other side of the new way of life. Can you think of any?
I think, yes. So one of my relearning moments was, a lot of it was around acceptance and capturing some of the things that I already did that were adaptive and going, I can amp that up. So, for example, so I have got a board meeting this week, and I've got the papers, and I've had the papers for a couple of days.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
And I need to be in a specific state of mind to be able to get myself through those papers. And when I'm in it, I'll be completely down in the hole with it, and I'll be, really fixated on it, and I'll be great and I'll get there. But I just actually, I am not beating myself up about the fact that I have not yet read them, because I know that I need to be in a certain place before I can do that. A bit of deadline pressure is fantastic for me. So this afternoon tonight is probably the time that I'm going to get down in the hole with that stuff, and I'll need a few things to help me. There's some certain soundtracks, music
brown
soundtracks. Noise? And no, I use actually I did start using brown noise last week.
You normies have no idea what we're talking about right now, but it's
brown
game changing. What on earth? There's orange noise. I sleep with white noise. Silence is deafening for me.
So it's just a Spotify soundtrack called Music for Concentration. But I've trained my brain, and it now associates that soundtrack with
cool.
I'm in concentration mode or report writing mode. So it'll be that. There's a little bit of, there's some OCD traits that come with ADHD, and for me it's around, before I sit down to read those papers, there will need to be a glass of water in a specific place and a cup of tea in a specific place.
How many times do you catch yourself with 7 different drinks?
And so I just actually, rather than beat myself up about that stuff now, I go, yep, that is just the way I work. And if I need to do a bit of a check on myself around, Sara, do you think you're running a little bit close to the wire here? I'll go, right, okay, so what can I zhuzh about? That's a technical term. I need to zhuzh my schedule around to create that space earlier, because I also understand the impact of, what if you don't have enough time. So one of the strategies I now use is that when I get a board pack, I open it, I do a quick first glance, and I go and I do a little estimate, and I go, right, I know exactly how much time I need to read that.
That's amazing. And that in itself, that gave me goosebumps, because that was a major relearning for me. You probably didn't know me in my previous life in a previous business, but I used to host International Women's Day lunch every year for 300 people, did it for almost a decade. And as the host and the MC, it takes 3 months for this event, because we did not take it in halves. It was amazing, very proud of it. I will be doing one next year, but it'll be different. It'll be, a little bit different. But I would catch myself with the biggest anxiety and self-loathing, because the same thing, I would have a bullet point of what I wanted to capture in essence for the day and the theme, and I knew what it was going to look like. And it probably took me till my 9th year of hosting those events and emceeing them to be at peace, knowing I sometimes wrote my spiel the morning of, because I would sit in the space of the moment instead of, and I know that it gives Brad, our CEO, and Chris, my husband, and our EGM the shits sometimes with, whether it be a report or something that's due, and they are prepared and they want it, a week or 2 weeks in advance. And I'm going, but it's not due yet. And I need to sit and, to be in that moment to give you what's actually the real data rather than, anyway. So I know that you understand that, and that's really powerful for you to understand yourself, to know how to get the best out of yourself. So
and just knowing that your brain is wired for interest, not importance.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Is really helpful because, and I've just been through this with my son because, his brain is also wired for interest and not importance. And I'm like, so if
we chase dopamine, right?
If you have to get something done, then you need to gamify something.
I love that.
To actually create interest. So you need to be able to go, that task's important and I can't not do that. Yep. What can I do with that to gamify that to make that interesting? So I gamify everything in my life that needs to be done that I'm otherwise not interested in.
That's amazing. And what a gift you are to your children to understand and empathise with them instead of going, don't be silly, you just need to get it done, or, you're so distracted, or this, that and the other, which is probably what we heard growing up.
Well, I do have the guilt over my daughter because girls do present differently, and I just thought she was lazy, and then I was just
my daughter now, she's
horrified at myself that I couldn't, because I couldn't see any other explanation. Why is it when we've had 10 conversations about this that you're still doing the same thing? And and she had a pretty tough mental health journey in her early teenage years, and as a mother you do go, oh gosh, how much did I contribute to that? And but then you get to make your present and your future, right?
That's amazing.
So as soon as I kind of saw a different way, I just jumped on it and went, right, well, I can't change what's happened, but I can change now and I can change
You're almost
tomorrow.
a different mother now off the back of
you have to be. Yeah.
So like the strategies you'd put in place pre-diagnosis for all of you versus post, that's
totally different.
That's empowering. That's really cool.
And I have one daughter who doesn't have ADHD.
A normie.
And she's neurotypical.
Yes.
And sometimes we all say to her, oh, don't you think you got a bit of something? And she goes,
come on, join the club.
Just because you all do doesn't mean I have to.
That's adorable.
And we're like, well, the jury's out.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Of course, that was not the only focus or intention for today, but it's part of who you are.
Absolutely.
Though, and I'm so glad that you're leaning into it. What would make your leaning into yourself be at 100%, that you'd be super confident to say out and proud, this is who I am? Or is it that
probably just a little bit more time?
Sure.
I think generally speaking, I've had a really accelerated journey of evolution. Generally, like I'm 52, but in the last,
kudos,
thanks. I have a great woman who does a bit of touching up. She's awesome. No, just generally speaking, I think I'm only starting to reach my peak now. So the last couple of years have been rapid evolution for me in terms of confidence, growth, capability, all of that. So I think a little bit more time and I'll be 100%.
That's amazing. Well, be kind to yourself because, it's a journey, not a race, as we know. And isn't it funny? Like I remember my brothers giving me curry every birthday until I was 30. They'd buy me a 21 birthday card and cross out and put 30 because I was just so paranoid about turning 30. I don't know why. That was a decade and a bit ago, but I love getting older because it means more wisdom and more understanding and more learning, more sharing of stories. You say you need time, and I'm so respectful of that, but you've just given somebody else, by sharing that story, you've given them the power to uncover themselves or be true to themselves and give themselves some time too. So sharing your story around that part there of ADHD is a gift that you've just given to somebody else. So I thank you for sharing that.
I hope so.
Yeah, I definitely. Well, I probably wouldn't have gone down the route if I didn't hear people like yourself who are strong, who are confident, who've got a solid career, who've got a beautiful rapport, because I was so scared. I knew all along, but I was scared that, like you said before, about that stigma or being tarnished with this, I don't know, whatever brush. But I see people like yourself who against all odds are doing what they want to do and doing what they love. So I'm grateful for you in this space and grateful for you sharing that story, and I know it'll resonate with someone. But ADHD is part of you, but it's not everything of you.
That's
it's a
right.
superpower.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the beginning that I'd love to unpack a bit of a chronological story to success as to where Sara is now. So tell me as much as you'd like to share about your journey to who you are. It can be professional, personal, whatever you'd like to unpack, but tell me more about Sara.
Yeah, that's
that was a big sigh.
Where do I start? Well, it's a huge question. I think the best way to describe it is, so I am a variety seeker.
Oh, I love that.
I'm a variety seeker.
Can I borrow that?
Yes,
no,
yes,
that's yours.
I am a variety seeker, and I am, when I say I'm a disruptor, I don't mean I'm a disruptor in a toxic sense.
Yep.
But I do think about things differently. And so, and I also, once I've conquered something, then I'm ready for
what's next?
A new challenge,
Love
right?
That.
So I've had lots of different careers, and I started, well, I went to uni to be a journalist, and I was so bad at it, I failed.
Because you didn't love it, or?
No, I was terrible at it. I'm a brilliant creative writer, but I couldn't even write a headline because I was like, what do you mean that's the important part? I thought this over here was really important. So, yes, and so then I thought I'd be a psychologist, and I got to the end of that and went, oh, yeah, no.
No thanks.
So I decided to go and be a nurse. And
you'd be amazing.
So, but 7 years, and that was enough. And but I ended up, look, I went to corporate life, spent 8-10 years in corporate world in insurance, and loved it. And you know, where I worked was had a bit of an intersection with health. So there's often been a bit of a health kind of theme through what I do. Ended up in leadership positions, and then went into the not-for-profit space. And then when I was working in rural and remote medicine, and one of the things we talk about in rural and remote medicine about GPs in that environment is they have this very broad horizontal discipline that is broader than a city-based GP, and it's a discipline that intersects lots of subspecialties. And one of the doctors I worked with said to me, Sara, you are a generalist. You have a broad horizontal discipline that you can work across, and yes, you've got some subspecialties there, but you need to focus on being a generalist. And so I went, oh, maybe I'd be a good CEO. And so when an opportunity came up, I became a CEO. And I loved that work. But ultimately then, you know, I'm variety seeking, and I started to, you know, when you're a CEO, you work with lots of boards. I'd done a few board roles, and so I decided to make a transition. And so the transition, and it's pretty recent. So what are we, week 9 actually?
Wow.
Yeah, week 9 of the transition. But look, a transition that was a long time, not necessarily in the planning, but lots of steps taken to get towards it. So so I am, I have what we call a portfolio career, I understand. So I'm on a variety of boards, and they're all very different. I am an executive coach, so I'm still doing more studies in that area because I love it, and it's one of those things that you never finished. So exec coach, and I have a wonderful group of senior executives through the Executive Connection, and so I facilitate their peer advisory board one day a month, and that is just such a privilege because I get to watch them grow. So, and interestingly, it had not been in my plan necessarily. I had no set plan to do advisory work, but it's finding me. So I'm not saying no to that, because for me it's important to put the pieces of the portfolio together in a way that lets me stretch all the little bits of myself. Being a director often requires a bit of restraint, and you know, you can't hog the floor. You've got to, you know, be careful and considered with your questions and your contributions, and you're not sleeves rolled up in there doing. So it exercises a part of my brain that I really love. But the advisory work gives me a little bit of something where I can like dabble a bit more.
Tinker.
And and just kind of get into a little bit more detail with people. The coaching I love because it's a beautiful, quiet space where you're just in the crucible with someone, and I get a huge dopamine high from coaching people because
you're helping.
You watch them solve their own problems. So
you've got a big heart.
Well, I don't know. I think it's just how I'm wired.
All those, in essence, all those parts of your performance are helping. You are helping, and as an executive coach, you're helping another professional put their hand up and say, I'm not good at, or I need help with. That's in essence a coach. Like you're showing them, the light at the end of the tunnel because you've been there and you've blazed the journey before them. Advisory is advising. It's giving another thought process to something where you know what it's like. You get stuck in a train of thought, and it's not until somebody else says, "What about this route?" You're amazing. I love that you're doing so many moving parts at the moment because I think that definitely speaks to you and your personality.
Yeah.
You don't sit on your hands for long. So I think that's really cool. It sounds like you're definitely filling your cup with what you love.
I am. I mean, I have to be careful what I say yes to because just in my nature, I'm like, and I want to do this and I want to do this and I don't want to do a bit of that and do a bit of that. So I am being careful.
Good.
Because anything I say yes to means I'm saying no
to
something else. But I feel like overall I've said yes to the right things. And I think I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about this concept of, the scariest part of it is the part leading up to and right before you jump. So
it's the unknown.
Yeah, well, and I think once I made the decision that this was the direction that I wanted to go in, all of the stuff around, who's going to want me to coach them?
Imposter syndrome.
How is what? Well, I don't think I'm not going to call it imposter syndrome because I think then we say we have something that's static. But I definitely had
self-doubt,
bit of doubt around. Well, what will I bring? And it's doubt that coexisted with confidence. The two things are not
we actually need it.
mutually exclusive. They actually go together. And then once I decided and went, well, what do I actually need to do to put this into action? Then the fear just kind of vaporizes and goes, and it doesn't really return. So then you're just off doing your thing.
Here I am, charging away. I think doubt something or fear or, the unknown is something that a lot of people are scared of, like you said, but I actually like it because, I don't know, I love getting deep into the psyche of things, and without doubt we wouldn't unpack what we're capable of because it's almost like a juxtaposition. I can't do, or I'm doubtful because, and then you just teach yourself another way and then you actually start to realise that doubt's BS and realise, it's go for it. And you certainly sound like you're just going all in, and the journey that we're, going through, not a marathon, a journey, what you're doing now is going to open up for something else, and then you'll look back and go, that's why I did that, or that's why I said yes to that. Do you ever have moments like that you look back on your career and go, holy moly, that was crazy at the time, or I can't believe I did that, but then it's brought me to probably so many of them.
Oh, look, I ran a homeless shelter for 5 years.
Wow.
And it was actually a day centre, so we didn't have overnight guests, but and it was full on. Like and the people that walk through life, that walk through those doors, lived a life in a world that the rest of us don't really know about.
Agreed.
So it taught me a lot about managing my own fear. I had people threaten to kill me. I had people hurl coffee cups at my head. But it taught me a lot about managing fear, and that was really useful, really useful.
Gosh, you're amazing.
Yeah. And I'm still really close with all the people that work there, and sometimes we go to each other, do you miss it? Do you miss it? And we go, I miss a good ambulance or a good call to the police, like, because it was you're living on adrenaline the whole time.
Yeah.
And yet everybody carries a little bit of trauma from that time together, because you saw some pretty difficult, ugly things, right?
How do you cope, not just in that scenario, in that part of your career and your journey, but in general, not taking on board, because I believe that we're quite empathetic, not taking on board the heaviness of whatever you're doing in that time? How do you strategically protect yourself from those moments?
I think I just have a view that I see problems or situations or issues as separate to myself.
Right.
So even my own problems or issues that I might be grappling with, my goal is always, that's not anything personal about me. That is a problem that's separate to me that I need to kind of do something with. Right. So I think the other perspective taking thing that I always did was you can't solve every social issue, Sarah. You can't.
You give it a red hot crack, though, I bet.
I remember, I used to find I went through a period in my life where I kept finding lost dogs, and
they find you, not the other way.
and my mother made a comment to me. She said, so I see you've stopped finding and saving lost humans and you're onto dogs now. But she was right.
It's true, though.
Right. So I really had to realise that if you impact one person, that's still an impact. If you allow the enormity of some of the social issues that we have in this world to weigh on your shoulders, it gets in the way of you being able to do the work you need to do to be impactful.
That's powerful.
You just got to keep it in perspective.
That's amazing. Thank you. Regardless of what industry or where you are in your career, someone is dealing with the heaviness of insert the heaviness here. You know, being in the people part of a business always it can be heavy, because people are beautiful and they have feelings and they carry struggles, and it's a learned, mechanism of our skill set. I hate hearing the words or the term soft skill, because it's anything but. It's
that draws usually quite a savage response from me when people talk about soft skills.
Okay, please imagine I'm saying it. Give it to me.
Well, there's nothing soft about any of those skills. No. Calling them soft suggests that they are in some way a weakness or in some way
or
easily learned. Yes, and in fact they are the skills to have direct conversations with people about their behaviour or the impact they're having on other people. The ability to communicate clearly and articulate, what you need from someone or would like from someone, or all of that. People struggle with that, and it's what I actually see the most in my work and in my coaching work. It's the difficult conversations where we're actually confronting uncomfortable things that people find the hardest. So there's nothing soft about that. And the other thing that really gets on my nerves is the people who often refer to soft skills, often the people that don't have any.
Correct. Because it's just so foreign for them. I think, again, regardless of us having ADHD or not, I think it's part of you, it's part of me, and I now understand that empathy piece is intertwined with our diagnosis, and I lean into that so hardcore. Brad, our CEO here at Red, always references me as being an enigma, and it's not until we've worked together so closely. I joke that he and Chris are my husbands, because they're literally like twins, and being in business and partnership together, it's like being in a marriage. We spend a third of our life and potentially more together, and in the beginning I know it was like a deer in headlights for him, but I now know that he understands me, and he says enigma, but actually with love and kindness, because he just can't explain it. And I sometimes can't explain it. I just have conversations all day long with beautiful humans around me. And it's quite often, having those hard HR conversations, for example, you can go into it with a completely different perspective, frame it completely differently than in previous businesses. Chris and I used to call each other good cop and bad cop. Of course, I was the good. He's not bad, but he just approaches it differently. And soft skills, they are not. They are skills that I think more people need to lean into and not be so scared of, because this is the realness, right? It's the real skills and the human skills and the human elements that we need more and more, especially in worlds like we both have come from. It's very tech heavy. And robotic is just not something I think you and I enter into. It's all human. No. I mean, there's a place for robots. But
Yeah.
Thank you, Sara. I am mindful of time. You and I could probably continue chin wagging forever. Is there anything else that you'd love to share that's in your toolbox currently that you wish another queen or king to hear about or understand or believe in themselves, or anything in closing that you'd like to mention?
I had to think about that for a minute.
You can say no.
No, there is, and it's really like, so I am I wanted to think of a word other than passionate, but I can't think of another word. I'm really passionate about health and well-being. And I think when we prioritise that for ourselves, it makes the rest easy.
I haven't been prioritising my health and well-being, so I need to absolutely focus on that. We get busy in the busyness and forget yourself, so I appreciate that's a good reminder.
There's no perfect there either, despite what Instagrammers would tell you. There's no perfect.
Even. But this is our vehicle for life, right?
Yeah.
So, definitely. Yeah. And mental health plays a massive factor in everything we do. And you're obviously, maybe even without realising that, a big advocate for that.
Am.
Good. Power to you. Sara, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you had fun.
Just getting warmed up.
I know. It is like that. But for respect of time, etc., I have kept these around the 30-minute mark just so that you can listen or
They could just keep driving around the block.
They could. It's supposed to be, the intention is for a quick one on the way to work or on the way home, before the busyness, before or after work kicks off. But I know that there's going to be a second and a third and a fourth, so watch this space for Sara round 2. But for today, I really appreciate you coming in. Thank you. I loved getting to know you a little bit more, and I look forward to continuing that. And don't stop being you. Don't stop sharing. And I can't wait to see Sara at 100%
watch out.
readiness, because, goodness me, if you're 90% now, like, look out, world. She's coming at you. Don't shy away from telling the world more about you, because I think you're a gift. If any board or whoever you're looking to work with shies away from that, then that's their loss. You're incredible, and I look forward to getting to know you a lot more. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to or watching this episode. I can't remember what number we're up to, but I'm sure it'll flash across on your screen soon. Thank you for listening and watching. Watching? Yeah, that's what you get, watching this episode of Empowered. Thank you very much for being here. We hope that you gained some insight to a phenomenal person that is Sara Harrup, and thank you for being here. Welcome to Empowered.